In our class early this morning, there was a metta class, a Cub Scout metta class, and Karen Akimoto teaches a metta class, and they joined our Sangha Padma class and had an introduction to the Hondo. And in this metta class, we talked about the kinds of things that are important to us of course, in Jodo Shinshu, but that what was their understanding of some of these basic ideas. And when I asked, what is Buddha? Buddha is a very common, a central idea in Buddhism. What is Buddha? What does Buddha mean? And one of the students' replies was, Buddha is God. So we went on and I asked other students what they thought Buddha was. And another was Buddha's enlightenment, the awakened one was the response. And we have these ideas in Buddhism that are central to our perspective or our views. And we naturally kind of try to make sense of these ideas in terms of what we are experiencing with the society around us, with the culture, and try to make sense of what Buddhism is about. And so the students very naturally would say, well, Buddha is like God. So, it's equivalent. And these are, what are they, fifth graders? No, are they fifth graders? Fourth graders? Fourth graders? Yeah, metta students. So fourth graders. So by fourth grade, they have this understanding, of what God is. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of the influence that we are surrounded in. And it's part of that influence and that view of the world that's a part of the fabric of our view of the world. And so very natural for the young Cub Scout to say, it's like God. It's God. Buddhism, Buddha and God are the same. And of course, Buddha and God is not the same. When the missionaries began to arrive in Japan, and this was very early in the, let's see, must have been in the 15th, 16th century, when trade brought Europeans to Japan, and along with the merchants, of course, the missionaries arrived in Japan. And when the missionaries began to arrive in Japan, one of the things that they discovered was Pure Land Buddhism. And in Pure Land Buddhism, there is Amida that saves the person who needs to be saved. So here was this parallel in Japan that was used to further show proof that Christianity was everywhere. And that here was a model in Japan of a deity working for the Savior, the salvation of people who were in difficulties. So it's normal to look at the world through the lens that you're familiar with, that you've grown up. And sometimes we may not even recognize that it's a view of the world that is my view, just my view. We may think of it, we may think that we're looking at the world as it is. And we think about these priests that ended up in Japan and thinking that here was further proof that God was true. This distant land in which this religious tradition, Jodo Shinshu, I guess it was Jodo Shinshu at that time already, Jodo Shinshu paralleled Christianity so closely that it demonstrated the validity of this perspective. Looking through the lens of Christianity, it makes sense. Here's something else that's very much like what I believe in, and so it must be true. We have a tendency to not recognize that our view may not be the complete view, that we have a tendency to see the world through our own views and perspectives, and what shapes our views and perspectives. But when we begin to recognize that, the second of the Four Noble Truths, that we may not be seeing things clearly. We may not be seeing the world simply as it is, but rather we have all of our influences that shape our views and values of the world, that maybe there is something that we need to re-examine or rethink. And how we do that is very difficult. It's not that I know that I have a narrow view of the world. That knowing doesn't mean that we can then simply jump to a broader understanding of the world. But it's the beginning. It's the beginning of recognizing, because as we approach things then, we approach things from a perspective that would allow us to question what we're seeing. That we may not be so dogmatic, we may not be so, I know this is unusual, but we wouldn't maybe not be so hard-headed about our views of the world, our values, what we think are true and real, that we may be become more flexible, more amenable to different views and perspectives that allow us to move freely between views and perspectives. We have a tendency to say, you have to have the right answer. Buddhism begins with the assumption that you don't have the right answer. That's why we experience difficulties. If you had the right answer, you would be correct all the time and no problem. No need for Buddhism. If you don't experience difficulties, there's no need for Buddhism. There's no need for Buddhism. If you don't experience difficulties, there is no need for Buddhism. Buddhism isn't required to live your life. I mean, there are millions of people, billions of people who are not Buddhists, and they're fine. I mean, they go about their lives, go about their business, living their lives. But when you recognize, or if you should recognize, encounter and recognize that, yeah, there are uncertainties that I experience. There are things that take place in my life that are important to me that I really don't have a clear understanding of why this is taking place. Why is this happening? What is the cause of this uncertainty? Then Buddhism may begin to have some meaning, some importance in our lives.